All right, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us, no matter where you are calling in from. My name is Olivia Fry. I'm the Alliance Director of North America for Inoapps. From the Inoapps team, I also have my colleague Jacob Haber, who is our account executive, and we also have Lyle Ekdahl, who is our board member, who you will hear from later on in the call. We also have from the Oracle team, Chris Keston, who is the RM, Andy Baim, who is the Alliance Director for Oracle, and then also Kevin Lally, who is the Area Vice President, who you'll hear from in just a few seconds. And then, of course, the star of our show today, who you all probably have come and registered to hear from, is Elizabeth Keniston, who is the Director of Finance from Pence Construction. So with that, I would like to go ahead and hand it over to Kevin for a quick executive opening. Kevin?
Yeah, thank you, Olivia, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Happy 2023. My name is Kevin Lally, Vice President here. As Olivia said, I lead our applications business across North America at Oracle. I specifically lead our engineering and construction industry and what we call our North American Growth Organization. Within that organization, I lead 3 portfolios of customers here at Oracle, all within the engineering and construction industry. The first portfolio of customers is made up of customers who own our legacy technology, so products such as eBusiness Suite, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, and our Hyperion product portfolio. The second portfolio of customers is made up of customers who own our cloud SaaS technology today. And then the third is our net new customer base. So that's made up of customers who don't own any Oracle technology today. I cover what we call our strategic account space, covering both privately held and publicly traded companies and what we classify as our high growth space here at Oracle. I'm in my 11th year at Oracle, with the last 9 years spent in various leadership roles on the application side of the business. At Oracle, I really want to talk about a couple different things, but first, we really pride ourselves on helping customers simplify business process, drive better accessibility and innovation, and Oracle does that through harnessing data and allowing seamless integration between all of our product offerings. At Oracle, we really understand the importance of data and integration and how that plays an important role in the design decisions and overall success of your organizations. Our Oracle Fusion platform was built from the ground up. It's the broadest and deepest connected suite of cloud applications on the market, with pre-built end-to-end business processes and out-of-the-box functionality. That means your people, finance, planning, analytics, operation teams are all connected utilizing the same cloud platform. By connecting your data and your people across the business, you can optimize those processes and leverage emerging technologies to really fine-tune your performance. Take a lot of pride at Oracle in really being the only unified technology platform in the market, and we understand how important that is to our customers, specifically in the E&C industry. And before we jump into the meat of the meeting today, I wanted to mention Oracle is really making 2 major changes as a company. We're now verticalized, as I spoke about earlier, which is industry aligned. So like I said, I cover the engineering construction industry across North America. And we're really making a second big transformation as we transition from a product provider to a service provider. So if any of you are familiar and have experience working with Oracle in the past, whether that be with eBusiness Suite, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, or some of our other legacy on-prem technologies, you probably had an experience where the SI or consultant doing the implementation work was really your main point of contact and probably who you worked mostly with during the implementation and even post go live. And maybe you very rarely heard from Oracle unless you needed more licenses or had a support SR question or issue, and that's changed. We've listened to our customers, we've evolved as a provider and as an organization, and we're looking to partner more directly with our customers. I want to touch on a couple areas quickly and how we service our customers and how we're working to do that moving forward. So first and foremost, as one of the vice presidents and executive sponsors for our E&C customers, make sure that your organization feels comfortable with the level of service your company is receiving from Oracle. And we offer a variety of different services, one being multiple levels of executive sponsorship within Oracle. I'll touch on that a little more in a second. We do in-depth technology validation meetings and reviews on a consistent basis. We do future product roadmap and release sessions to talk about what's coming in the future. And we also do consistent customer engagement model, The customer engagement model assures our customers are working directly with Oracle on a consistent basis. That's really a governance model and can be scheduled based on your specific needs as a customer. I've got some customers where we do it weekly, whether they've been going through a current implementation, and we want to touch base on a weekly basis to make sure that the project plan is staying on target, we're achieving the goals and initiatives of the project. I've got some customers where we do it bi-weekly, and then after go live, we can scale it back to monthly or quarterly. And these customer engagement sessions are really meant to build a strong partnership together. Think about you as a customer, Oracle, and the consultant or partner doing the work. It's a three-legged stool, and the stool only stands if all three of us are communicating on a consistent basis. Want to make sure that your team is partnering directly with the executive team from Oracle, and that's not only from a sales perspective or a sales executive, but that's also executives from our product strategy, our product development, product engineering, and product support organizations here at Oracle. And one important thing to note when it comes to our cloud technology at Oracle, and it's a big differentiator against our competition in the market, is that currently 82% of our technology enhancements improvements come directly from you, our customer. So think about, there might be a change that you need in the technology based on your specific needs and requirements as a customer. We take your feedback and input and bring it directly back to our product development teams and work to make sure that that's something that we can improve in our technology for a future state. You can also have these conversations directly with our product teams. So these are just a couple of examples of how we are focusing on the service of our customer base. Again, my organization was built to help and support customers in your industry who are evaluating Oracle Cloud technology as you work to transform your business and innovate for the future. So in closing, my team and I are committed to making sure that y'all have the right resources, the right technology, and overall commitment from Oracle to align to your organizational goals. So thank you so much again for your time today. Looking forward to the session. Olivia, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time today. So I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Elizabeth Keniston. Elizabeth is the Director of Finance at Pence Construction, a joint customer for Inoapps and Oracle. I do want to mention, please send any questions that you have for Elizabeth through the question tab on the GoToWebinar platform. We'll make sure that Elizabeth sees those. Please keep the questions coming as she is speaking. We're going to kind of moderate those to her so she can focus on what she's talking about, and we'll kind of relay those to her. If there are any questions that we do not have time for or do not get to, we'll make sure to follow up with you all after the webinar. So with that, Elizabeth, would you mind just kind of sharing your role within this transformation project with Pence and kind of an overview of that project?
Sure. So at a high level, first a little bit about myself and about Pence. As Olivia mentioned, my name is Elizabeth Keniston, and I'm the Director of Finance for the Pence companies. I have spent my whole career in construction. Kind of by happenstance, I ended up working at a shoring equipment company in college, which was my start in construction, and then ended up getting into public accounting, where I worked as an auditor and consultant specializing in construction, which was great, gave me a really broad base of experience with a lot of different types of contractors, got to see a lot of processes and softwares and different ways of doing things. And then I did what people in public accounting do when they leave public accounting, and I went to work for a client. And that client being Pence, which has been a wonderful experience. Joined them in May of 2020 as the Director of Finance. And that was a newly created role for Pence, and really a reflection of their continued growth and their investment in the future, which is really going to dovetail nicely with what we talk about today in this investment in new systems. So Pence itself started in 1949 with Dale Pence Construction, and over the years has grown and expanded in a lot of different ways. It consists of a few different companies. We have our general contractor, which does a lot of work with schools, multifamily housing, senior living, rec, large buildings like that. And then we also have a structural and site concrete company, Pence Kelly Concrete. They perform work both for Pence and then also for other GCs. And finally, an equipment company, which serves both Pence and Pence Kelly. Our focus is in Oregon and Southwest Washington, though we've worked in California, Alaska, North Dakota, various places over the years, usually for a specific client. Our annual volume's around 400 million and around 360 employees at any given time. So obviously, starting in 1949, a lot of growth over those 70 plus years, but particularly in the last 5 years, tremendous amount of growth and really intentional growth, and with vision to continue growing and a lot of intentionality there, which has led to investments in talent, breaking into new markets, and then what we're here to talk about today, really investing and transforming our systems to facilitate continued successful growth. So with that, our project, I don't know about you guys, but we like to give it a cool name. Everybody likes fun branding. So this transformation is called Project Apollo. We've got logos and swag and really milked this is exciting that we're making a major change in our systems. And that was called Project Apollo. So you can see the timeline here, which in some ways, starting in the middle of the story in May of 2021, when we signed a contract with Oracle. We actually began the exploration process in late 2020, putting out an RFQ and doing different demos and interviews to really make the best choice for Pence. And this was a pretty eye-opening experience. I think that what we all thought would happen is that we'd pick, one of the 5 construction softwares that we all know that specialize in construction and that all contractors use. But our eyes were really open throughout this process as technology has advanced and more things are in the cloud with the ability to integrate, that we don't have to be locked into a specifically construction solution, but that we could choose something like Oracle, the best of the best for finance and data analytics and the things that we would really drive future growth, while still being able to integrate with other solutions that were really important to our project teams. So chose Oracle there, and then of course in July we recognized we can't do this on our own and worked with Inoapps then as our partner, who was really just tied to us at the hip throughout the whole process to make it all happen on a pretty aggressive timeline. You probably see there's a weird gap there between July and November. We hired everybody and then hit pause, and that's my fault. I had a baby, so graciously everybody took a little break and not a break, a lot of back end work happened to prepare us, but then November really hit the ground running to get everything implemented so we could go live in August of 2022. So look, that's a really high level. I think we could probably get into a little more with questions, but that is me, that is Pence, and that's Project Apollo.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Elizabeth. And I think that's really commendable that you were running an implementation like this and having a baby at the same time. So I don't know if you planned it that way, but you are very brave and proof that it can be done. If you can do that and go through a successful implementation, there should be nothing else to stand in your way.
That's right. We can do hard things.
Yes, exactly. So I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to my colleague, Jacob Haber, who's going to we have a list of a handful of questions for Elizabeth to kind of do a deeper dive. I'm also going to share, there was a session that Elizabeth and one of her colleagues at Pence did for the recent Oracle Cloud World conference back in October. I'm going to share the link to that. It is on YouTube if you want to do a deeper dive. This is really more discussion based today. So Jacob has a couple of questions for Elizabeth that she's going to walk through. And then please, as she's speaking, go ahead and use the question function on the GoToWebinar platform for additional questions. We'll make sure that Elizabeth gets those as well. So Jacob?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Liv. And Elizabeth, again, thank you so much for being here and being with us today. So I want to take it back to the beginning of your evaluation. What were the leadership goals? I believe on the webinar you did for Cloud World, you call it the BHAG, the BHAGs. Can you walk through a little bit of what those were and how they contributed to the formation of the project?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to touch on 2 things here that I think really drove this project. One is Pence's mission, which is building space for people to flourish, and then our BHAG, Jacob, that you referenced, and that stands for our big, hairy, audacious goal. And our BHAG is that our people will change the industry standard for what a great contractor experience is. And both that mission, the building space for people to flourish, that drives our every decision we make, and then the BHAG, which drives where we're going, really require that we have robust, reliable, and innovative systems to achieve success there. You know, when we think about building space for people to flourish, I think about our employees and the work they do every day and creating space so they can focus on activities that add value, that stimulate them, that help them grow, help them serve clients better. And in order to make that happen and have that space, we need to have efficient, automated systems, remove duplicative efforts, less pain for them. You know, the more employees are really feeling the burden of systems that frustrate them, the less they're able to flourish and live out Pence's mission every day. And as far as our BHAG, you know, changing the industry standard for what a great contractor experience is no small thing. And I think it really speaks to not settling for the status quo, being able to think a little bit bigger and what could be different. How could we do things differently than other folks do to better serve our clients, to better serve our communities, to better serve our employees? And within that BHAG, there's a pretty long envisioned future that really describes in detail when we get there, when we achieve this BHAG, what is it going to look like and feel like? And that includes talk of our systems. You know, it says that our people, innovation, and systems are going to eliminate cost uncertainty and risk for every project. Again, talk about a big, hairy goal. That's a lot, but it's really what we're aiming for, and putting the pieces in place now by having systems that can allow us to grow and do robust analysis and look at things a little bit differently is really a cornerstone in helping us achieve those goals and create an experience for everybody that interacts with Pence, from subcontractors to employees to clients, to be really different and lower risk and just pleasant all around.
Well, we do love to hear that. And, you know, I think you brought up a really important point, because a lot of times when we're working with clients around the idea of a transformation, this idea of, well, my people do all these things, you know, one way today. What is it going to look like in the cloud? What are they going to do if they're not doing all these things? And I was just wondering if you could expand on that a little bit with how some of the things that Pence employees have been able to focus their time on the analytical side, now that they're not doing so much manual effort on the system side.
Yeah, so that whole concept of freeing up time to do other things is both so exciting and so scary, that when we were going through this whole process and talking about these automations and talking about the equipment app automatically recording all the billings and talking about, you know, UCR reading invoices and entering things, there's both enthusiasm and there's a lot of fear from employees of, hey, what does this mean for me? Is this your plan to phase me out or reduce workforce? So I think the comms around that are really important, and also really true that, to your point, the goal is not to have fewer people, but to help people focus on value-added activities. So what we've really seen is with some folks that are maybe previously in more of a purely data entry type of position, certainly there's still a piece of that, but having more free time where they're able to grow their skills and we're giving them more responsibility. You know, some of our AP folks that previously are focusing, you know, just on entering invoices perhaps, are helping design processes and reports and working directly with department heads on budgets, and both getting more exposure to other parts of the business, which is enhancing their employee experience, but also providing really important value and oversight as we grow and need to have more discipline around things like budgeting at every department level.
That's a great point you made at the very end there. You know, in addition to maybe getting to focus on more value-add activities, they also increase their own agency in the processes of the organization. And, you know, especially with some of the hiring challenges that we're seeing in the wider world today, that's great to hear that employees are taking a little bit more ownership over the business process in their day-to-day. So I appreciate you expanding on that.
Yeah, and I think even the entire process of this implementation was really powerful in that too. As you guys know, and folks who have gone through it, a lot of the process is this design phase where you're taking, this is how we did things in the old system, and really doing a deep dive in the new system and trying to think of what that would look like, and getting folks from every level of the business involved in that, I think helped with a lot of buy-in and them feeling like they have had a say in their future and how things run. And also, of course, really good feedback. They're the ones in there every day. I'm not. And I think it's also a great opportunity to think about the way that we do things, especially with a change as dramatic as we experienced, going from CMiC, which is construction software through and through. Every line of it is designed for construction. Which is in some ways great. Like you do it the way it tells you to do it, and there you go. There's not a lot of room for flexibility. To Oracle, where it's a little more, the sky's the limit. It's not all prescribed that you check these 3 boxes, then you go here. So I think it's both scary for some folks because it was, well, give me the to-dos, but it was also, I think, really empowering that we could have a little more control over our future and what we wanted our systems and processes to look like.
Exactly. And that's such a great jumping off point for my next question. You ran a pretty competitive evaluation throughout the entire RFP. Would you mind just touching on some of the things about the Oracle and Inoapps offering that really stood out to the Pence evaluation team as you were making your decision?
Sure. And I think I mentioned this before, that to be perfectly honest, I don't think any of us thought we were going to choose Oracle. Our IT director was kind of pushing us like, think bigger, look at different things. We're like, yeah, sure, we'll see it, but we know where we're going to end up, and it's going to be in one of these traditionally construction softwares. But honestly, what we saw with Oracle really impressed us, and a lot of it was being able to be more future-looking. Data and analytics was really important to us. We had felt, previously held a little bit where it was really, really difficult to get anything out of our previous system, and if you did, it was manually exporting huge amounts of data and going Excel crazy and hoping you don't screw something up. So the capabilities of Oracle to help us understand our business better and recognize trends. I think what we found, probably what a lot of people do, is as your business starts to maybe get a little bit of data, the hunger just explodes. And that's what we were seeing, that the hunger from the business to better understand what was happening was growing exponentially and far faster than our ability to do this super manual data analysis that we were previously doing. So Oracle's really good reputation and what they were able to show there was really powerful. And also just from a selfish accounting nerd perspective, the accounting system is just so good. Just from a purely actually doing accounting, just being intuitive and helpful, and that when you go to do a journal entry, it shows you in the corner what your balances will be before you post it, so you don't have to do backward entries like we all do and then have to fix. So little things like that all throughout the system that show that's really designed with success in mind and thinking about the things that can help things be more innovative and efficient. The automations were really attractive. Bank reconciliations, previously we do daily bank recs, and it took up a lot of one of our staff accounts time. It's done very manually in Excel outside the system. So the ability of Oracle to, one, have it in the system, which is certainly better, and then also auto matching, bringing stuff in from our bank accounts, just the efficiency created, the less pain to our people, the greater accuracy, all things that are really helpful to everybody, and also recognizing that as we grow, it's more and more important that we have discipline around those processes and systems that keep them really tight.
100%. And we appreciate you saying that. And, it's great to hear the experience that Pence is having. A lot of times when I'm speaking with clients, we try and bring real world examples into the conversation. We find that a lot of the apps that we as consumers all use, be it, something like Facebook, Instagram, all of these platforms that we're on all the time, are constantly modernizing and updating. And then we go to our work platforms and sometimes they aren't always there. So bridging that gap and realizing that it is possible in the workplace as well, I feel is a really important thing for clients to understand. And it's great to hear that Pence is taking advantage of it. So,
and to your point, Jacob, the modern, just kind of the look and feel from an employee experience, that makes a big difference too, that Oracle does, that feels a lot more current and present and not, a software from decades ago. And I think that feels better to employees and they enjoy that experience.
Absolutely. So, moving a little bit forward in the evaluation, we made the choice, Pence made the choice to go with Oracle and Inoapps. Can you speak a little bit about the implementation and the Inoapps partnership throughout that process?
Yeah. Also, apologies, that baby I talked about gave me a cold, but we're powering through.
We appreciate it.
Yes, so the actual implementation experience itself, I personally had never gone through a software implementation. I'd heard lots of my clients talk about it. Our CFO had been through a few, so I had heard enough to know that it was going to be hard. I think we can all be honest that it's a hard process, but Inoapps was such a great partner in that. I think they helped us early on be realistic. I think setting expectations is huge with all of this. So understanding for ourselves how much time we would need from everybody so we could backfill roles, so we could set expectations within the business of other things that might have to wait, so we could focus on this thing we called a priority. So that expertise from Inoapps was really helpful in setting us up for success and making what is inherently a painful process maybe a little bit less painful. And then throughout the whole process, we had a whole team of people that we're just in constant contact with them, and were super accessible, worked with us to understand the system, to design our processes, and to solve problems. I think there's a lot of things that maybe we didn't think of, especially for as great as it was choosing a software that's not construction specific. And it also presented challenges, things that maybe we didn't think about putting a ton of attention on because it's always been automatic to us, realizing that we're going to need to figure out how to translate it into this new system. And Inoapps did a great job bringing their depth of experience to help us find ways to harness the power of Oracle and still do what we need to do as a construction business, using DFFs to track things and figure out the processes for retention and tracking compliances and all of these things that maybe aren't out of the box with Oracle, but are certainly possible. They helped us not panic when we realized we didn't quite know if that was going to work, how it was going to work, and instead find a solution and implement that solution and really be by our side throughout the whole process.
That's really important, and I appreciate you sharing. It's something that we always try and convey is that, we are going to have, we treat everyone like adults. We want to have a conversation about what is really important to you and how can we help you really achieve that. So can you talk a little bit about how you went through that prioritization, and then are you saving some items to do in the future? Like, what's, that process been like for Pence?
Yeah, I think prioritization and timing is so important. I think we're not different from most construction clients in that we run pretty lean. We have fairly low overhead. A lot of grit, work hard, don't have a huge amount of people. So prioritizing when things are done is important to success. So we took a really phased approach from that. And we focused, we worked on it all for a long period of time, but rolled it out in phases. The first being payroll and HCM. It was important to us not to launch this at the same time as everything else because just the importance of payroll. There's zero room for error. There's a lot of things with the rest of the system that you can fix it with a journal entry later, you can work through it, but payroll is every single week and needs to be right to the penny. So we launched that first to make sure that went really smoothly. And then a couple weeks later, our phase 2, which was the larger ERP, which included, all of finance and Oracle with integrations to a custom forecasting app that we built in Apex, and then working with CMiC, our previous system. Still, some of our project management lives there, and then that opens the door for our phase 3, which is still yet to come as we continue to enhance our project management experience and focus more on that. The focus of this was more so the HCM, accounting, etc. things.
Those kind of core processes.
Exactly, but we still have a lot of ambitions for the future, and I think also one of the values of branding it all as Project Apollo. It wasn't just Oracle launch, it's this larger Project Apollo that's going to be with us for years to come as we continue to innovate and transform our systems and processes.
Absolutely. And, I know that you guys are doing some work in the Apex tool. So would you mind explaining for some folks on the call that maybe don't know, what is Apex and how were Inoapps and Pence able to collaborate together within the Apex platform to really deliver solutions during implementation?
I'm going to be honest, I'm probably going to have to defer to somebody better at technology than me to explain what Apex is.
Fair.
I just know what we got out of it, which is great, which at this point is a custom forecasting solution, and then also working with it on field timesheets. I think our safety team, they've previously had an app they created and Microsoft products that we're going to transfer over to Apex. So I know it's exciting, and it's been able to do a lot of cool stuff for us, but probably one of you can do a better job talking about what it is.
No, that's fair. That was kind of an off-the-cuff question. So we just want to say that Apex is the low-code environment where a lot of clients we work with like to develop some custom little extensions to some of the Oracle processes that they're currently implementing. And it's great to hear that Pence is taking advantage of that, because really not everyone does. And, you know, we find that that sometimes can be at their own detriment. So being able to take advantage of something to make it truly fit for Pence and, you know, carry you into the future is really exciting to see. So we're coming to the end of the question list from me. So please continue to add questions in the chat if you have any and you're watching out there. But, you know, Elizabeth, you guys have been through this journey. You're still kind of on it, but you've made, you know, you've achieved the big goals that you set out in this journey, you know, some of the big milestones. What advice do you have for folks out there currently considering a move?
Sure, a handful of things. I think one is really making sure you enter this with your eyes wide open. This is a major project. This isn't something you kind of like tack on and do an extra hour every day. It was pretty all-consuming for a lot of members of our team. So making sure you are preparing for that going forward. You know, I mentioned we backfilled some employees, a lot of just resetting expectations and maybe some things that previously were done, we're going to put on pause for a while to focus on this. So I think that's really important to set yourself up for success and make sure the business is on the same page, knowing that it is a big investment of time and resources to be successful. I mentioned, you know, the partnership with Inoapps before. I think that is so critical. In the past year, I've spent more time with Inoapps people than I don't know anybody else. And so having that be a partner that you can trust and work well with is so important. You know, there's hiccups and hard times, and it's not all daisies and hard conversations. So having that partner that shares our values, that we trust, that trusts us, shared respect is really important. And then of course with a deep knowledge of the solution and a partner that's really willing to take the time to learn about your business too. These are not one size fits all solutions. And if your partner isn't really understanding what your business is, how it runs, what your challenges are, I think you'll run into a lot of roadblocks later. So really taking the time in those early design phases, not glossing over things, but taking the deep dive, really getting into the details of what your business looks like is important to set yourself up for success later. And then finally, I would say really seize the opportunity and think about the future. There's so much that can be done, and just translating old processes to a new system maybe isn't taking advantage of the opportunity in the best way. I think with change management, you're already making a huge change in systems. It can be a healthy time to maybe make some other changes too and help create more efficiencies. You know, even just we jumped on the opportunity to change our whole chart of accounts. It had bothered me for years. So we're getting into a new system. Let's revolutionize that now and think not just about where you are, but where you want to be in 5 years and set yourself up to be successful there.
Well, that sounds like a great place to touch off. So I will pass it back to Liv, and we really do wish Pence the best in your goal of becoming the most transformative contracting and construction company out there. And it sounds like you're off to a great start with the Oracle solution. So we really do appreciate it. And Liv, back to you.
Jacob. One of the questions that we have from the attendees is for Elizabeth. What was the size of the implementation team for this project? So you mentioned that you had to backfill some positions, and it was all-consuming for several. Can you speak a little bit more about the size of that implementation team, please?
Sure. So I think from our IT team, we had 3 people, our director of IT, our senior systems analyst, and an application support person, where more or less their full job was this implementation, probably 80%. This was really the focus of their work. The other area with the heaviest load was accounting. Thankfully, we were able to spread that out a little bit. I think I was looking over our hours just the other day, and it's probably about 30% of my time was spent on this project. We have a really strong controller and accounting manager, so between the 3 of us, we were able to kind of divide and conquer there. So we each probably spent about a third of our time on this. So we were still able to, keep the business running, but focus on this. And with that, we did bring in an extra staff accountant to help carry some of that load. And then as far as payroll and accounts payable, they were all involved in their respective areas that, depending on what phase it was at in the project, sometimes it was just an hour or so a week. And then as it got more intense, with payroll especially, probably, up to 50% of our payroll manager's time was spent getting this ready to go.
That's really helpful. Can you speak to, Elizabeth, in terms of Inoapps as your implementation partner, what that conversation really early on looked like? Were you all prepared to do this? What was the conversation like in terms of division of duties between your implementation partner and your staff?
I think that Inoapps did a pretty good job early on with a really clear statement of work. Our IT director also had a lot of experience with this sort of work, so he helped set a lot of expectations with really clearly delineating who does what and what the expectations were from the people on our team. If I remember correctly, we had like the schedule including each person on our team, and for each given week, the expected percentage of time to be spent there. So obviously things change and evolve, but we appreciated Inoapps' expertise and honesty early on to help us prepare for that investment of time throughout the process.
Wonderful, and especially considering you said that your team was not this huge team, that you had all this manpower to just devote to this. So I appreciate that honesty. Are there any other questions from Oracle team or from other attendees that we want to ask of Elizabeth in this project specifically before we move on to a couple other topics we have today? Elizabeth has been very gracious in allowing us to share her direct email address that we'll share here in just a second on the next slide. If you have additional questions that come up afterwards, she is willing to answer those via email. I'd like to go ahead and transition a little bit. Elizabeth mentioned the platform that they were using before they switched over to Oracle wasn't giving them what they needed or were looking for. And I imagine that many of you who have attended today are in a similar boat. So there are lots of platforms that you could be using, industry specific or not. We do happen to have a JDE resource on our board. His name is Lyle Ekdahl. He is here live for questions if you have any, so feel free to continuously use that question box in the platform here. But we wanted to share a clip of that and then, of course, answer any questions that you may have. He's speaking specifically to JDE and moving to the cloud, but a lot of the benefits that he speaks of can be not just for that platform, but for others in moving to the cloud. So a little bit of background about Lyle. He is a board member for Inoapps. He is a self-proclaimed recovering enterprise software development exec who started with JDE in 2003 to run product strategy and later became the SVP of product development at Oracle, guiding JDE in a global capacity. Ekdahl is a wealth of knowledge, having spent considerable time in cloud development. And for those who aren't familiar, Oracle's ERP is a fusion of its 3 major on-premise ERP applications. And Lyle was really instrumental in bringing the best of JDE to Fusion ERP. We're grateful to have such an incredible resource on our team at Inoapps and look forward to leveraging his knowledge to benefit the current and future customers in their journey to the cloud. So like I said, he is online right now listening in and available for questions. So we're going to share just a few-minute clip where Lyle highlights the benefits of moving from JDE to the cloud, benefits that can be seen by the technology that you are currently using.
The next thing that you need to consider is, what does this term cloud mean? There are different layers of the cloud. So there are SaaS, software as a service applications. There's infrastructure as a service. There's platform as a service components. There are hybrids of those, so combinatorials of those different kinds of layers of system. So really getting a handle on that will help you determine your actual benefits. So again, getting those details on how you adopt and deploy the layers of the cloud is going to determine whether benefits relate to some level of just capital expense reduction, or more strategically, what are enterprise-wide benefits associated with system reach or even your process intelligence. So then getting to the benefits themselves, I would say in general, the benefits fall into two big categories. The first one is reduced IT complexity. The next one is business agility or faster time to value. In the bucket of reduced IT complexity, to oversimplify it just equals lower cost. It's that simple. To give you an example of this, I recently stumbled across a post from one of my old JDE friends and frankly employees, and it was a good post that he did out on the internet. But his question was to folks: do your system administrators find creating or updating configuration settings for specialized JD Edwards HTML servers to be a time-consuming process? Okay, that's IT complexity in a nutshell. If you're running in the cloud, you don't worry about that. Right? The vendor worries about that for you. If you're going to say Oracle infrastructure as a service or the SaaS applications, Oracle's going to take care of those things for you on the back end. So given how technology has evolved, many customers can benefit really from what I would say is a fresh start, or even jumping over years of inactivity to sort of the future of systems, right? So benefits found in adding technologies like collaboration capabilities or robotic process automation, right? So compressing of processes through the use of automation, mobility, right? Being able to cast functionality out through mobile devices. All those things are really native in the cloud. Now, somebody could argue that those things could be obtained in a current JD Edwards environment. But I would point out that yes, but at a cost of IT complexity, because you have to manage those things. In the cloud, they're not just native and managed for you, they're also secured for you. That's huge in today's marketplace, right? Security being such a big issue in IT these days. And in the cloud, the vendor, in this case Oracle, ought to be taking care of all that for you. In fact, they do, and they do a way better job. They spend way more on security than you're ever going to be able to spend. So in terms of Oracle Cloud applications, you also have full stack availability, right? And native integrations across those layers, so whether you're getting platform components or infrastructure components or even applications components, those things are all going to come to you in one full stack and natively integrated. And this really equates to sort of retired technical debt on your side, because they keep that fresh for you. As technology changes, as new features and functions come, those just automatically get turned on for you in the cloud, and you don't have to, put in place specialty servers or incur specialty, other costs associated with deploying those. Also, when you adopt SaaS application, there's an opportunity here, and in all systems, when you move forward, there's that opportunity to consolidate across your applications, your departments, your divisions. That will give you increased security, performance. Performance is, managed for you then by Oracle. You don't have to worry about, is this thing going to scale? Do I have to add servers? Do I have to add memory here or there? That's all done for you, and therefore it's highly available. The next broad category of benefit is faster time to value. So this is really the increased business agility factor. And really what comes top of mind there is access anywhere, right? So you've got a browser, you can get to this capability from wherever you are. Now, many of us in 2022, 2023 take that for granted, right? But I will tell you that during the pandemic, there were two types of customers. There were those that had considered this sort of access from anywhere and maybe put in a bunch of technical infrastructure to handle that and to secure that. And then there were those that didn't, right? And the difference was those that kept working and those that were down and not really working at full optimized capacity. And many stories of customers that went through that during the pandemic. Again, in the cloud, you don't have to worry about that. If people have a browser, they can get to the functionality. So that's probably first and foremost. The next thing I would say is maybe more on a strategic level. Adopting a platform approach and mindset gives you an increased reach for all your features that you deploy, whether that's standardized material procurement or expense reporting, or maybe more broadly, a cross-departmental analysis with end-to-end visibility into the state of the business. By being on the cloud, those things are just inherent, right? And again, you don't have to think through them in too much detail. The next thing I would add broadly in terms of agility is what we would refer to as system democratization. So things such as screen configurations, visualizations, reporting, all those things are really or can be pushed down to the power user, the end user, right? That can have control over their own layouts and can work the way they want to work. And that can be huge in today's business, right? When you've got people coming out of college, they don't understand older systems. They don't understand green screens and function keys and things of that nature. That's not what they've grown up on, right? They've grown up in this more democratized, more consumerized kind of an interface and interaction with systems, and cloud really brings that to you, again, without the added IT costs. You could layer that stuff on in a modern JD Edwards system, but you have to always consider the trade-off of the costs associated with that.
Lyle, you did a great job there, and I'm really excited to talk to you today. So I think one of the things,
Jacob.
You as well, sir. And it was great to see you highlighting a lot of the points that we'd previously heard from Elizabeth in her piece of the presentation, just really emphasizing again how important those considerations are when you're thinking of a new project, et cetera, and moving to the cloud. Before I get into a couple questions, did you have anything you wanted to add to yourself from the video earlier?
Yeah, I think one of the things that got left on the cutting room floor was the commitment that vendors that sort of sit on top of the Oracle stack, like an Inoapps, can bring. And it goes back to, I think, what Kevin was talking about earlier, and that's industry focus. Clearly Oracle is wanting to do more industry. But I usually say, the world is full of industries and you can really only focus on a handful. So that requires you to make choices. And at the end of the day, Oracle is about delivering horizontal solutions. And then vendors like Inoapps can go that, sort of, hey, we're in the football playoffs here, so we can go that last 10 yards, right? We're in the red zone now, and we can take and really focus down on a set of industries. And one of the industries that Inoapps focuses in on, which is near and dear to my heart, being formerly of the JD Edwards stack, is engineering and construction. So whether that is solutions that help you with subcontractor management or rentals, Inoapps has built out those extensions on the Oracle platform, working in concert with the Oracle Cloud, which can then get you that last mile towards the more operational ERP, beyond just the debits and credits. And Elizabeth Nothing wrong with debits and credits, love them, but the world is filled with businesses that are more than debits and credits, right? It all boils down to that. But we have to rent things, we have to build things, right? So once you get more operational ERP, more verticalized ERP functionality, you're going to see that coming from partners like Inoapps, and in this case, we do deliver those capabilities. So that was one thing that got left on the cutting room floor, which I think is a huge benefit to our joint customers.
I couldn't agree more, and that's actually the heart of the question that I have coming up. Was watching your video. We know that folks that are currently utilizing JDE love their platform, and honestly, kudos to you because you helped build it. So that really is a testament to the power of the engineering and the ingenuity and genius that you put into that system, when it was originally being constructed. So with that in mind, now we're moving towards the cloud. The world as a whole is moving towards cloud applications. And as Olivia stated earlier, Fusion is a combination of the best of Oracle's on-premises cloud ERP applications. So would you mind speaking a little bit to that customer that really does love their JDE platform, but they know that they need to modernize on the cloud and they're just not sure what that future is going to look like when they get there?
Right. So I would state that this, when we say it's the combinatorial of these systems, to be quite honest with you, it isn't. Okay, it's a completely separate beast. Okay, from the ground up, completely separate beast. Now,
right.
Who built that? Well, there were engineers that were brought together from eBusiness Suite, from PeopleSoft, from Edwards, from Siebel, right? So that's what made up the team that built out Oracle Cloud applications. Okay,
right.
And so when we say the best of the best, what we're really talking about is concepts and conceptual, and not code. So don't think that what we have is this big Frankenstein monster, because vendors do that. I mean, there are other vendors out there that at this point will go nameless that
right.
do that, right? And they cobble a bunch of stuff together. That's not what you're getting. You're getting a very clean, modern stack when you go to Oracle Cloud. Okay, but what you're getting is conceptually what I would say is not necessarily a digital representation of what you have, but it is a representation conceptually. So, and the reality is better, more sophisticated, because it's later in the technology life cycle. Okay, so when you take a look at sort of the enablers, the bottom line, so business unit setup. Okay, that's always a big one. Oh, JD Edwards has the best way to set up business units. Yeah, it's got a great way of setting up business units. And by the way, you set up business units obviously in any ERP, but in cloud ERP, we took the best concepts for how that happens, okay, and built that into cloud ERP. The same goes with basic functionality, right? Your visibility back into the GL from your projects, same kind of concept. Does it happen exactly the way it happens in JD Edwards? No, but it happens. Okay, so we made sure of that, and we made sure that it was more sophisticated than that. So another great example is, in the EBS world, you have this notion of flex fields, right? In the JD Edwards world, you've got all these notions of adding, right, your own designators to data, right? Yes, we combine those ideas and then modernize that in the cloud world. So yes, you have extensions on all your fields and the ability to represent your own data in your own way, okay? So those things all exist. So for those of you that are still sitting on the bench with respect to cloud, cloud is clearly our future. This is not like this is a conversation that's 2 years old.
Right. It's been 2008, right?
Cloud computing actually started about the time of Y2K. So we're now, as I look at my calendar here, it's 2023, right? So 23 years in the making. This is the direction of the market. I would point to the fact that name any on-premise solution of value that's been invested in by the VC community in the last 15 years. And that the answer to that question is none.
Right. True.
Right. So the reality is this is the direction of the marketplace. And then the question becomes, when, right, for you and how, right? And those are really the questions. And those are the questions that, people like Inoapps can help you with. And it's not like it's a big rip and replace. I'm not a big fan of rip and replace. I believe in de-risking projects, right, and taking them a piece by piece, and it can be done by, like I say, by business unit, by line of business, by function, there are different ways for us to help you get there, and that's why you work with somebody like Inoapps, and we can help you make that transition over time. So that's really the answer to that question. That requires work.
As
Thank you.
most of the best things
I think
do.
we have time for one final question from our chat box, if that's okay. I'm conscious that we're coming up on the top of the hour, but obviously this is engineering construction focused. So Lyle, with many construction and home building companies being JDE customers, what do you see as a major catalyst in those companies replacing JDE with the cloud within this industry specifically?
Yeah, what is the catalyst for the movement? The catalyst for the movement is the march of technology and lost opportunity. So, in many cases, deployments, and again, it's not like JD Edwards customers are this homogeneous groups that are all the same, right? They're all different, and they've all deployed at different phases and are kept current or not. The reality is that technology keeps marching forward. And what you're missing, there's a huge opportunity cost, right, in not jumping onto modern systems. So you're suboptimal if you have deployed your system over 5 years ago. That's just a fact. So you're suboptimized. Your processes are suboptimized. They're not as agile as they should be. And that is the catalyst for moving forward, right? You're incurring technical debt daily, and that's a cost that you should not over discount, because people like Pence Construction are using technology as a competitive weapon. And you're not just competing with Pence, you're competing across sector now for people and intelligence and capital. That is the motivator.
Absolutely. And I am conscious we're at the top of the hour, so I would like to go ahead and just wrap up. If Elizabeth and Lyle, I'm not sure if you have just a few more minutes. We have, I think, 1 or 2 additional questions for anyone who is interested in listening in. I do want to mention that we will send the recording of this out to everyone who registered. So please keep an eye out for that. Elizabeth has shared her email here. It's elizabeth.kennison@pence.net. And also, if you attended today, we are offering a free Inoapps road mapping session. So the best way to take advantage of that is to contact me at olivia.fry@inoapps.com. And then Lyle and Elizabeth, do you have maybe 2-3 additional minutes for 2 more questions?
Sure.
Wonderful. And understandably, if anyone needs to drop, please feel free. Thank you all for attending. We do have just a couple more questions we'll run through. This is a question for Lyle. Is there any running parallel of new and old systems, or just cut over to Oracle?
No, there's definitely ways to run things in parallel. Again, that's something that, when you sit down with Inoapps, they can walk you through those options. There's certainly an idea, it kind of goes back to Gartner's sort of the pace layering, if you're familiar with that, and or composable ERP, those sort of concepts, right? So there are ways to keep sort of maybe a core of what you do stable, while you innovate at the edge is kind of the terminology that gets used in the marketplace. That's another approach to this. So what you do is you look at where can technology give you the best advantages, right? And some people will take an inside out approach, so they'll start with accounting like Pence did. Others will go from the outside in. So there's different ways of doing this. So no, you don't have to do a complete flip over. Again, I'm not a big fan of that. Those projects, some people do them and they get through them. But again, I like to de-risk projects. So I like a much more phased and layered approach.
And then I think the last question we have on our question and answer box is for Elizabeth. And it says, Elizabeth, you mentioned retention as being a challenge. I'd love to know more about how that was solved, your retention issues at Pence.
Sure. So retention from accounts payable perspective was native. So that didn't require anything specific. For the receivable side, that was not central there. And it's where things get fuzzy because I don't work in it every day. But I think I was working with our consultants and ultimately having a separate like billing type. So the full bill would be created. And then it did create a second step to basically credit part of that off and reclassify it as retention. So that you still have the trail of what was the full amount of the billing, but breaking out what's of course retention and not expected to be collected and accounting for that separately.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Once again, I really like to thank Elizabeth and Lyle and of course the Oracle team for your partnership in this webinar. Sounds like we may need to do a part 2 and with lots of great questions coming in, but thank you all so much for joining. Again, we will share the recording via email. You can share with your colleagues, and please reach out to Elizabeth with any additional questions specific to the Pence transformation and to myself to take advantage of that free road mapping session with Inoapps. With that, I wish you all a great afternoon and a great weekend. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.
Take care.
Thank you.